It's as big as any film set I've ever worked on.
There's huge crews, it's quite noisy.
New planets, new characters.
This is a wild ride.
Dune Prophecy takes place 10,000 years from now and 10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides.
The High Council now welcomes the Emperor of the known universe.
One half of our story really focuses on the Imperium, the government that controls the universe.
As a leader, Havoko Carino has a bit of instability on his hands.
There is a shortage of spice because of some sabotage at Arrakis.
The great houses are concerned, and he needs to placate them.
If I lose control of Arrakis, the great houses would feed me to the worm. Carino's exceptionally good at playing the politics of everything. That's how he's survived as emperor for so long. But you learn that the emperor is struggling. He relies heavily on his truthsayer, Kasha.
She is the right hand of the emperor, but also her allegiance is to the sisterhood.
You wish to serve the great houses and shape the flow of power. You must first exert power over yourself.
The Sisterhood is a precursor of the Bene Gesserit. It's an institution that uses its influence to guide humanity down a certain path.
The Bene Gesserit in the movie is very much shrouded in mystery. The exciting thing about Dune Prophecy is we're allowed a glimpse into the characters there.
In our show, you get backstory on two really huge things, the Bene Gesserits and the Harkonnen family.
The Harkonnens have a certain reputation, and it's fun to kind of figure out how the Harkonnens became the Harkonnens that we all know and hate.
I will never bend to you.
What I love about this story, it felt like a political, historical drama. Except that because it's set in space, all the main players are proper anti-heroic, badass, nasty women.
Lots to look forward to in this show.
We've never seen a force like this.
We must act.
There's a lot of tension and drama.
Visually, it's very thrilling. Dramatically, it's thrilling.
What do you want?
To wipe out every trace of the sisters from our worlds. That is why I've been gifted a great power.
Everything to love and nothing to hate.
You mistake me for someone afraid.
Hello everybody, my name is Chloe Lee and I'm going to be taking you around the best bits of the set. And we're straight into the library! This place is absolutely huge. I feel like a real estate agent. Here we have a view to the library, which is so scary when you see Emily standing at the top of here. Here we have the Truthsayer's office. Whoa, I've never been in here before. I know if I ever want a desk, it's gonna be that shiny. We're going into the lab. This is Lila's agony table, where I took the poison in my eye. I hope you watch the show and get to see the sets in their full glory. Mwah.
The Dune series is a touchstone for anybody who likes science fiction. The worlds are so rich, they're so developed, each one has its own unique beauty.
What was really important for all of us is to stay true to the Dune universe.
We wanted to create a world that was as real and situational as possible. For Wallach 9, we found this beautiful rock quarry. It had this beautiful, dark, gorgeous veining of rocks that feels like the rough environment for Wallach 9.
The Sisterhood complex is a huge, brutalist structure.
The interior of the Sisterhood is very austere. There's so much detail in there about how the Sisterhood was founded.
The Sisterhood courtyard location brought me an abandoned church from the pre-World War II era. The reverence of this space matched the concept work that we were doing. It just felt right. When you look at the stones, which the craftspeople here built one at a time, actually create this hushed environment within the sets because they do deflect the sound in many ways, and that also helps reinforce the reverence and the sacred ceremonial quality. In designing Salusa Secundus, I really wanted to juxtapose this world to the world of Arrakis. If water is a commodity on Arrakis, I wanted it to be in such abundance that it was almost carelessly and richly available. In creating the Carino Palace, I really went back to Greco-Roman architecture, and I looked at the proportions of many of the classical buildings and the way that they were built. We found an abandoned shopping mall that was 3 stories with a beautiful rotunda, and we were able to basically put our artificial walls and use that building as a skeletal system that we then clad with our palace architecture.
Every time I see a new set, the detail is amazing, and the craftsmanship is second to none.
The Lankavel world had to be a really tough, hard environment. There are a couple of key elements. There's whale furring, the idea of like a woolly mammoth whale, which was something quite fun to create. As far as the homes and the architecture for Lankavel, I think something that felt of the earth, of the ground, that felt as base as possible. We found some basalt caves that were carved into the hillsides here, and we were able to rebuild some of those and cover some of the stone and create this kind of natural built environment. For Caladan, we created these hunting lodges or cabins, and we wanted to just kind of give it just a little bit of a sci-fi vibe, but again, feel like something that you could see and believe in nature.
It had this incredibly dramatic terrain. One of the challenges of shooting all those sequences was that we were never on flat land. So we'd have to figure out ways of shooting that were kind of inventive. It was a great location, though.
We've built some really wonderful, fantastic, huge sets and some wonderful worlds. The process is one of the most satisfying aspects of this show. The fact that we were able to really develop this world is what has really been exciting.
I started with pulling out references, making many mood boards, and then we started doing drawings. Without the fantastic team that I had on this project, nothing would be possible.
I'm always really amazed by the work. I remember when I saw the costume for the first time, I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really cool, but how is that actually gonna work? And then you try it on your first fitting and you're like, oh, yep, it's incredible.
It's so important that the actors feel good in costume. It's a completely new universe that we are making, so we had to create everything.
The most challenging and most important costume in the show were the sisterhood gowns.
I always wanted overalls and trousers, and then have novices, acolytes, and reverend mothers in different tones of gray. We have a metal department which made our insignia for the sisterhood. We had fantastic girls from Italy who did all the printing for all our sisters.
There's a poise that suddenly you adopt. You see the characters slowly coming together.
When you're dealing with truthsayers, it's the iconic version of what the Bene Gesserit looks like. The most important thing are the veils. You want them to feel like a presence.
Watching Kasha, she sort of billowed with that extraordinary veil.
I mean, Valia Harkonnen, when she comes to Secundus, her gown is her batsuit.
The costumes on this felt very wearable, quite elegant. I look in the mirror and I scare myself.
For the Carino family, we had fantastic leather master who brought his laser cut machine. We were cutting leather, making designs, applying fabric on it to create texture. Again, the metal department made by hand, the insignias that represents the family power.
Boyana's vision is just so bold. She's really taken it back to these very powerful silhouettes.
The engagement ceremony look, I remember when I put it on, it kind of felt like being in a prison.
The costumes are so intricate and well made, and in a world where you need to be Emperor of the Universe, there's almost no acting required.
The visual metaphors are always playing upon this subtext of contradiction. It's gloriously cinematic.
It's art to figure out how to take us to a new world and at the same time not feel like people are in costumes.
There's so many talented people involved in this process. Each costume that we made went through like 10 hands in our workshop. It was a long, exciting journey to create our world.
Score is sort of the emotional heartbeat of the story.
We really wanted people to feel immersed in the world and to have a signature sound for our show. We were lucky enough to work with Volker Bertelmann, who brought so many colors to our series.
My inspiration is coming maybe from a childish approach to experiment and to search. Nearly every week, cellist and violinist coming to my studio, and we are having sessions where we just experiment. Can we take all the strings off? Can we just use one string? Can we turn the cello around? Can we use a rubber ball on the back? And that leads to a lot of sounds that will be a part of the score.
In this show, score is also setting up the sonic identity of the sisterhood. You want to think about what are the cues that score can establish that become iconic to Bene Gesserit.
In the choir itself, it sounds like you have a supernatural person singing, has a lot of reverse inhaling or doing sounds with the throat, and that made it very connected with the voice.
I loved doing the voice scenes. I was so excited. We shot the voice in so many different ways. I'd have to take a deep breath and then say the line for 60 seconds.
There's the actor's voice, and then there's different timbres and different pitches of voices that kind of stack into the voice commands.
I worked with a voice coach to just try and find a sound that had a sort of resonance to it.
Take out your blade.
Other Memory is a kind of living parallel universe.
Wanted to build out a cacophony of whispers that kind of flow like cicadas.
For scenes like that, I try to find surreal sounds rather than melodies. I worked with vocals that are pitch shifting. It's a little bit like vocals are raining from the ceiling.
There were so many soundscapes that needed to be realized and should have both an analog feel to it and then at moments a real sci-fi feel.
To kind of give us the right amount of tempo, seriousness, pitch, vibe.
Lankevel, the music is establishing this place that is cold and grim.
All that's left here is death and rot.
Kaladin needed to be separate from Arrakis or Lankevel.
You hear this very raw, distorted sound. I looked a lot in medieval instruments.
So much of what happens in the world of the palace is layer upon layer of subterfuge and artifice.
I use that theme that the balisette is playing. I use a lot of detuned strings, and so everything sounds a little bit off. With the desert, I used the contrabass with a lot of raw bowing. It makes a sound like somebody's under the earth.
Desmond's motif, when you hear it, someone's in trouble. And that trouble is an extended version of torture. So the score has to kind of build and build and build.
Are you seeing with? Our sound designer created such incredible work for our show.
On the nightmare sequence, first of all, you ask the sound designer, what are you doing?
Your sins has brought the reckoning to our order.
These nightmares, they're meant to not look like dreams when we first see them.
Go deeper. It's about the essence, it's about the sound. Something is off.
There are some places where she's upside down, where I had the feeling that the music should actually cope with the space she's in. And with sequences like that, it's not always helpful that it's all on.
It's really about the sound of the sound effects and the volume and the intensity and how it works around the music. Who's the cart, who's the horse in the particular moment changes all the time.
I was encouraged to cross certain lines, experiment. The music can be another protagonist. And if you find that level, then I've done my job very well.
Hair and makeup hold actors together.
Every character has a very distinct look to them.
We had a lot of discussions with the cast, because if you're trying to do something that they find doesn't work for their character, they won't feel the part. With the sisterhood, they're working women, so you want practical styles.
I love the fact that the makeup is very natural. They're not really into vanity. It's about your mind, it's about your body.
I am Mother Superior, Raquel Berto Alero.
Raquel is 110 and 130, so that required big tests with a lot of prosthetics, a lot of hair work, lots of contact lenses and hands.
When the part was offered, I was like, what are they trying to say? I'm not 120.
Now, it's tricky with prosthetics because when you age someone up, it becomes very apparent where the cheats are. And with hair and makeup, you were able to create this really kind of solid look of like what a person that age would feel like, and also alien at the same time. What I loved the most was the way Michaela looked.
We really wanted to go there with Rebel Michaela. It is her playing a part. We wanted there to be a huge contrast between when we see her there and when we see her with Valia under the cone of silence as a sister, so that when people see it, they're like, where's all her hair gone and all this crazy cool leather outfit that she was wearing?
Travis didn't want Desmond to look groomed. He didn't want any of that.
This is a guy who spent a large part of his life as a soldier. Weathering him and showing the scars of his soldiering days was important.
I should not be here. That attack should have killed me.
When working on Desmond's eye, we got some concept art from a contact lens designer and sent initial ideas off to production and also to Travis. Our first thought was a different color, and then we went for a more subtle look of the scar in the eye. We used biological reference of someone with an eye scar as our inspiration. Lankerville, we referenced Inuit and peoples living in cold climates. They tend to have really weathered skin. Snow is one of the hardest things you can do. It's making sure that their tips of their ears and the ends of their noses look colder. With Caladan, we wanted to give a modern look to it, so we put a lot of hair pieces in to give length. They're rich country folk living in this almost like Robin Hood world, but we did not want to do anything that sort of smacked of that kind of feel. Dipping into the future is much harder than doing a period production because anything goes and it's so easy to get it wrong. We have covered blood, prosthetics, beauty. We have dabbled our hands in everything, and that's what's made it so amazing.
10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides, we founded a sisterhood.
The opportunity to tell a prequel story allows you to explore the early versions of the world building that takes place in the Dune proper story.
It is very important to navigate where Dune prophecy fits within the Dune universe.
Dune prophecy takes place roughly 100 years after the end of the Great Machine Wars, where humans overthrew thinking machines.
Computers and artificial intelligence became a scourge on humanity.
Basically like a war against AI.
Humankind was nearly wiped out by the thinking machines.
Coming out of this, there was a tendency to lean back onto the pre-computer time. So there has definitely been a new rise of an ancient futurism.
Well, that's what's great about Dune. It's unpredictable in its futurism. Sometimes it's anti-future.
That technology is forbidden! The presence of technology is very inflammatory. People are very afraid of it.
The Imperium is really kind of shaped by the wars. It's something that threatens the harmony of what they have fought so hard to create.
In our series, we get to go beyond Arrakis and see other parts of the Imperium. We're going to look at the capital, Seleucus Secundus, Caladan, with the Atreides, Lankervale, homeworld of House Harkonnen. And Wallach 9, the homeworld of the Sisterhood.
In the world of the Imperium. So Lucer Secundus, it's the one that is less affected by war and strife.
The homeworld of House Harkonnen is called Lankivale. It's an ice planet. It's not a hospitable environment.
Wallach 9 is a very sterile planet.
Dune is very dry, Owl is very wet.
But what this series does really well is it actually focuses on like humanity.
At its heart, it's a drama.
It's about power, it's about politics, it's about facing your fears and fighting for what you believe in.
The Imperium is a circus of fear and rumor. No one can take your power away from you unless you let them. When history is written, how would you like to be remembered?
Dune prophecy begins 150 so years after the Great Machine Wars.
It was basically like a war against AI.
The machines are defeated by the human race because they become too powerful.
After the Machine Wars, what grows up in the Dune universe is a kind of neo-feudalism, and power is very unevenly distributed, and there are the great houses that hold significant access to spice and to wealth.
All the great houses have their own kind of fiefdoms that they lord over. They're on planets. At the center of it is the Carino family.
Carino has to balance the will of all of the houses, and he's kind of being undermined.
The game has to be played. You can have an ulterior motive, but there are rules that you have to play by.
We are all just pieces on the board to be played in the pursuit of power.
The conflict between House Atreides and House Harkonnen stems from the Machine Wars.
And it's disputed what happened. The Atreides accused the Harkonnens of betrayal.
If you've watched the film, you'll be expecting anyone with the surname Harkonnen to be almost unhuman, but we're showing the more human beginnings of House Harkonnen.
These people, they have a very complicated history.
Valia was born with a sense of injustice.
It's a shadow of what we're going to see in the Harkonnens later on, where they're completely devoid of any empathy or moral compass. They've got it in a sort of embryonic form.
Dune prophecy begins 10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides.
It's a very different time. House Atreides is yet to be established, though the Atreides name is trying to work its way back into power.
House Atreides haven't really stepped their foot into the political game as of yet, but more to come.
All the great houses are jockeying for power. That is always present.
They are always conniving and scheming behind the scenes.
You have shifting viewpoints on these characters. You feel like they're obviously the good guys, and then events occur that change your mind about that. It's one of the great strengths of the show.
Dune prophecy is the origin tale of the sisterhood that becomes the Bene Gesserit. After the Great Machine Wars, Raquel established the sisterhood to guide humanity down a certain path.
In our series, we go behind the veil of the sisterhood and its power in the Imperium.
We land into this story where there's been a prophecy. There's something coming that threatens everybody.
The sisterhood must be strengthened. Use every tool.
From the sisterhood's perspective, Valia is trying to figure out how we're going to protect against the downfall of everything.
You wish to serve the great houses and shape the flow of power. You must first exert power over yourself.
The Sisterhood train in special skills and powers. There's Prana Bindu, truth-saying, other memory, and the voice.
We have to go through some physical training, Prana Bindu, to help us learn how to fight, but also in order to have complete control over our body down to a molecular level.
Lying is among the most sophisticated tasks a brain can perform.
In truth-saying, the sisters are trained to read somebody's heartbeat, their skin, their eyes, and see whether they're telling the truth. It has a very controlling effect on the political framework.
In the Machine Wars, Raquel got poisoned, and she figured out a way to transmute the poison. She unlocked other memory where you can access your ancestors' knowledge.
Somewhere between the traditional idea of the underworld, it's also a kind of living parallel universe where there is still a power play going on.
And then there's The Voice, brought to the Sisterhood by Valia Harkonnen.
Don't do this! Dartea!
Face me! The audience is seeing in real time the discovery of this ability that was born from this place of survival and pure emotion.
The Voice is a turning point within the Sisterhood. It makes us the most dangerous people in the universe.
There's a war hidden in plain sight.
I run a school for young women. We're not a threat to anyone.
We both know that is not true.
It's the political dark arts. We manipulate people, we imprint on people, we make huge, life-changing moments in people's lives.
The Sisterhood decides who would marry into what family. The whole intent is to make sure that there is a sister on the throne.
We are all just pieces on the board to be played in the pursuit of power.
We are working towards peace throughout the universe. And in the name of peace, we will do terrible, terrible things. Sacrifices must be made.
Valia Harkonnen.
You see the burning truth and know.
As we are exploring the origin of the Bene Gesserit, it was important for us to start out at the seminal moment of the Sisterhood.
It was founded by Reverend Mother Rakella, and her shadow falls very heavily over this series.
This is the moment young Valia Harkonnen stakes a claim to the Sisterhood.
There's been a power struggle when Rakella died. Valia feels she has no choice but to stop Dorothea, and she has developed the Voice.
Me and Emily discussed it a lot, and I always felt that the Voice was this ability that we all could have when you need to survive or defend yourself.
I worked with a voice coach to find a sound that had a sort of resonance to it. It's like having a molecular connection with the intention of the other person, so she can say to you, stand up, and you'd find yourself standing up.
I don't think it's something that she relishes doing, but felt was necessary for the Sisterhood to lead humanity forward.
The Sisterhood takes a dark turn.
Valia is now running the Sisterhood and training young women. They learn truth-saying, and they learn martial arts.
It was a very, very hot day with rain machines and wind machines blowing at us.
We did first a dry run just with the wind, and then we added a little rain, then we added more rain.
Anna, director, actually also did the rain test with us.
I'm telling you, if I can do it, you guys can do it.
And that was sort of the first instance that I felt like, yeah, this is a collective, we're a sisterhood.
Valia grows the Sisterhood. She grows its presence in the Imperium. She's working to exert influence behind the scenes.
We are preparing to receive Princess Ines, and we have manipulated her wedding, and then she's going to come and train with us.
The princess will spend quite a number of years at her school, and it will give Valia a chance to really secure her allegiance to the Sisterhood before the princess takes the throne.
So I have pretty much achieved everything that I set out to achieve. And then suddenly, like dominoes, everything just starts going dunk, dunk, dunk all around.
Havico feels like this wedding that's happening is kind of being done against his better judgment. But he needs the combat ships that he can use to fight the insurgency on Arrakis.
While he fears what Duke Corchese will do as he gets closer and closer to the throne, he will lose all political capital if he doesn't get the situation on Arrakis under control.
Inez is actually quite satisfied because she knows what she wants and she wants to go to the school.
They've created such a bond with each other where Inez looks to Kasha as a mother more than she does her own mother.
The fact that Kasha sees potential in Nez, that means the world to Nez. She's very inspired by the Sisterhood, and especially Kasha.
Kasha is a truthsayer, and she is the right hand of the Emperor. Her allegiance is to the Sisterhood. Kasha knows there's something that's off with Desmond, but she's also really transfixed on his eyes, and she can't look away.
For Kasha's vision, we wanted a tremendous feeling of dread and a sense that this wedding was a mistake.
It's not the first time she's had a vision. This vision is so strong, and she knows it's important enough to jump ship and convince Mother Superior to stop this wedding.
I can't afford to listen to her. This is the right match. This is what is going to set the universe on the right path.
I feel one of the most important themes for Tula is the regret she feels for not believing Kasha's prophecy. We should have read the signs, really.
When Pruitt and Kasha burn simultaneously across the galaxy, it's extraordinary and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, it's a bit weird when your character has to kill a little boy. Little Charlie is the actor. What a little talented bloke he is.
The burning is a massive achievement of our VFX team. We were horrified and also impressed with what they were able to do.
We added dampness and wetness to the hair and the skin, so it's like sweating and then steaming.
We shot the scene using a unbelievable model of burnt Kasha. It essentially looked like her and it felt like her. It was a dreadful scene to have to film.
No one's seen this before. So clues that are stacking up that this is something more than just an anomaly.
As Kasha is burning to death, Valia realizes this is the reckoning. And then she's racing to try and find the cause of it, what it is, what's behind it.
We definitely are operating firmly in the gray area, where everyone is concerned.
People want to make the world a better place, but at what cost? How ethical are the methods?
I have a line. Perception and reality are not the same. We guide one to shape the other.
I'm leaving for Seleucia Secundus. Pruitt Rashezi is dead. Burned. A second attack, Tula. This is the burning truth Mother Akela spoke of.
The wedding has crumbled, and Valia's plan to put a sister on the throne is in jeopardy.
With Kasha gone, I have to secure the princess. Someone has to protect our plans. I can take care of things here.
There is that sense that Valia's treating Tula a bit like the kid that can't keep the peas on the fork.
Valia does trust Tula. She just would love to be in control of everything.
Hard choices will have to be made. When have I ever shied away from hard choices? It's one that involves Lila.
Tula is incredibly reluctant to put Lila through the agony. She's not ready, she's vulnerable, she could die, and Valia makes her do it.
We need you to talk to Mother Akela.
Lila's always wanted to know who her family is. She feels like a bit of an outsider. She's seen people come in to the sisterhood from these families and they know exactly who they are. When she finds out it's Rakela, it's the highest honor, but immediately a lot of responsibility is placed on her shoulders.
They're using you. Sisterhood above all, not sisters.
Jen is very anti-establishment. She's very wary of someone telling her how it is.
Emmeline and Jen butt heads a lot. They really come from opposing views of the world.
Human life is sacred. There's no greater honor than to give it.
Emmeline sees a lot of potential in Lila, and through Lila, she might get access to Dorothea, Emmeline's icon. So she has a little bit of an agenda of her own.
As Lila has to decide whether to undergo the agony, we learn more about the relationship she has to Tula.
I used to pretend you were my mother.
Well, I'll tell you a secret, so did I.
Lila really looks for solace in Tula and comfort.
Lila is told the only way to reunite with her mother is to go through the agony. And that's the piece that they use to make her take the big step towards it.
For Lila, the agony was so far into the future, so when it's quite daunting.
Chloe's an amazing actress. She wasn't afraid to go deep and touch the darkness of the emotions of the scene.
She starts to think about, is this really going to be the end of my life? When she lies on that table and Tula is there,
just follow my voice.
She knows that she's going to get through it.
I've been waiting for you.
Dorothea throws her off track.
In the second episode, Desmond is still kind of a mysterious presence.
You made your feelings regarding Bert Richese and the wedding very clear.
Desmond's way of political operation is he's going to tell the truth about everything he does.
I did not tell you to kill that boy, but you wanted me to.
The Emperor wants nothing to do with that because that could get him in great trouble.
This is madness.
Desmond Hart starts to feel like a fanatic to him.
Guards! Arrest him.
There's a lot of fireworks underneath the surface of Valia and Desmond's first meeting.
Did you kill Reverend Mother Kasha?
I saw the corruption in her heart. The same way I see the blood trailing your every step.
She is enemy number one for Desmond.
Valia knows that there is a power working behind him that she hasn't discovered yet.
See?
But she knows if I just keep following the logic, I will find it.
Thank you, Mother Superior. I think we've heard all we need to.
Natalia doesn't trust the sisterhood. She sees Carino as being almost involved in a kind of coercive relationship. There's a sense of intrigue for Natalia about Desmond. It's really about political expediency.
Why not let me show you how I would humble those who try to take from you?
He quickly learns that he has a weapon, essentially, in Desmond Hart that can be harnessed and used to Carino's advantage.
Carino is slipping through our grasp, and he needs to be reminded of our value.
Power is very unevenly distributed, and the great houses hold significant access to spice and to wealth.
Great houses are forcing the people to turn to violence to get what they need to survive. Don't doubt for a second my allegiance to the cause.
The rebels want to bring down the Emperor and distribute everything fairly.
Inside the middle of that rebellion resides the sisterhood.
We empower the great houses to maintain order and allow rebellion to keep that power in check.
The sisterhood of like having the perfect person next to you playing chess with them. They can give you all the answers, but you don't realize that they're the person you're playing chess against. When Desmond comes along, he kind of like flips the board over and he's like, new game.
House Carino no longer requires your services.
Valia assumes she will outmatch Desmond.
Take out your blade. Drive it into your throat.
Desmond is resistant to her power.
I always wondered what your greatest fear would be. Now I have seen it.
What is really driving Desmond is one of the central mysteries of the show, and something we'll have to explore as the series unfolds.
I need you to know that I regret that things are the way they are. My name isn't Tula Vale. It's Tula Harkonnen.
We always knew we wanted to show fans an origin point for Valia Harkonnen and the Harkonnen family.
The Harkonnens ended up in Lankoville because they were banished there. They didn't have a choice. It's freezing, there's not many resources, and there's not much hope.
The usual.
We found a quarry to do the opening scenes in Lankoville. It lent itself to the Dune aesthetic almost perfectly. Not just snowy, but blustery, rigorously uncomfortable.
We wanted to keep it like overcast all the time, that kind of cold, desaturated, to help it feel that it was quite a brutal landscape to live in.
We see young Valia's separation from the rest of her family. Like they don't understand her, except for Griffin.
Griffin Harkonnen was very much a favorite son, someone that the Harkonnen family was betting on elevating their status.
You're really going to Zimia, Griffin?
The Landsraad accepted our petition. It's going to get us a better trade deal.
Valia is unwilling to accept the fate of her family, and she wants Griffin to force Voreen and Atreides to tell the truth.
We deserve to make it.
We will.
And it ends tragically. She firmly believes that his death was at the hands of Voreen and Atreides, so for her, the Atreides should no longer exist.
I want the Atreides to suffer like we have.
So Kaladin was shot in a park in the countryside. It had this kind of lushness that I wanted, because we wanted to make it different than Lankoville.
We're first to arrive.
For the Caladan sequence, we talked a lot about how important it was to set up a really believable love story.
Emma Canning did a wonderful job at playing the intention of being in love with Ori and being conflicted by the request that sits there under the surface.
Her love for Ori has to rival the love and loyalty that she feels towards her family.
She allows herself this night of passion with Ori only to tell him the truth, but it's too late.
We do what we must.
Why is it so quiet?
It's important to always remember that this is the Harkonnen family. Valya and Tula are bonded by the tragedy and loss of their brother, and I think at that point she feels no choice but to complete her mission.
This is an absurdly dark and ominous request, not just to kill her fiancé, but to kill his entire extended family.
It shows you how good of a liar she really is.
True strength isn't always something you see from the outside.
The thing about Tula is she's capable of being underestimated.
She has tears in her eyes when she does something, but she still goes through and she does it.
When Albert comes, she just doesn't have anything left. Tula recognizes this animal that now will live, but only because of the tremendous damage that she has done to the Atreides family.
The echoes and the ramifications of that follow her the rest of her life.
I got your message. The message from Tula means that Valya can go home and she can get some kind of closure on this.
Valya owed it to her sister to see that through with her. But once it's done, she realizes there is no home for her on Lankaville.
You shouldn't have come back.
Something is really set free from within her, and she realizes that it's about herself and it's about her own journey.
She's willing to undergo the agony and potentially lose her life because it's her only way out.
Oh, I love transmuting the poison. It kind of ended up being like I was like giving birth. That's what it is, like you're giving birth to yourself.
Valya, wherever you are, come back, please.
At that moment, Tula chose Valya as the person that she would keep close, no matter the cost.
She has this opportunity suddenly presented to her to be taken under Valya's wing.
Promise me the sisterhood will be a fresh start for us. We have a new purpose now.
The High Council now welcomes Padishah, Emperor of the known universe.
We took a long time to design how we were going to approach this scene. You know, it was a big math equation. All these moments converge at the Landsrat. Richard Donnelly, my DP. He was able to light large sections of the room and then come in and get specific.
It's such a huge set, so to light all of the characters, not have any lights on the floor, was a great challenge, but I loved it.
Order!
Want order?
Let me speak of order.
There were a couple of important elements to get right. One of them was Travis's monologue, because I think we've been waiting to see what this Desmond Hart is capable of.
Oh, I was so excited about the way that it came together. Watching Travis do it was really like watching an actor mesmerize an entire room.
A Leviathan that rises from the sand. It is terrifying to experience.
It's an interesting scene because there's something of the converted preacher in terms of what he talks about his experience on Arrakis. For her, it's the show of strength that she feels is absolutely imperative at that point in time.
Once we learn that Desmond has this awesome power to be able to burn people up from the inside, it makes Carino incredibly confident and makes him realize that he has a weapon, essentially, in Desmond Hart.
Valya was hoping to use the spectacle of this attempted assassination plot. How Desmond is operating ahead of the Sisterhood or finding ways to counter Valya is part of the mystery of that character.
You know, she's not frightened, she's not recoiling as everybody else is from what's happening. She's going, he's bleeding. That means I can take his DNA and I can analyze it and find out who he is.
And that may finally answer some questions to his mysterious past.
Fortunes fade, nephew. Ousted from the palace, nowhere to go but the family she shunned.
The only thing fading, dear uncle, is your health.
Valya exists in an ethos of sacrifice. She has no problem asking other people to do it, and she will ask it of herself. To go back to the Harkonnen family, who she has not helped, she is going to do something for the greater good.
The Sisterhood would like to elevate House Harkonnen by offering you the services of a truth-sayer. There's a lot of unfinished business there. There's a lot of pain in relation to her family. So it's a very uncomfortable thing for her to do.
If you're a Harkonnen, you know that people are using you. You also know the Harkonnen ability to use others. So the fact that Valia is gifting him things is suspicious. He will know that. But it's all about who can use better.
Well, when we think of the scenes at the Harkonnen house, we think a lot of the conflict between Evgeny, who represents an all-knowing past.
You're a murderer.
And Valia.
Griffin was the only one of you who was ever my equal.
Yeah, Griffin is sort of a weak spot inside of a character who doesn't think that weak spots are useful.
Griffin went to his death because of your damned ambitions.
Emily and I talked a lot about this scene. She gets as angry and as resentful as we've ever seen her.
I will not apologize for what I did, and I will not apologize for my strength!
And then little by little, she starts to think about, what if I withheld this oxygen and let him die?
I think when Theo witnesses the depth of Valia's pain, she becomes willing to give her the gift of using her skill and offering a kind of emotional catharsis that Valia could have no other way.
If you're willing to make the sacrifice, so will I.
Theo is an experiment, an early day experiment by the Taloxan. She's able to kind of change, shapeshift into other people. That power is extremely painful.
It's horrific, actually. It's not a kind of enjoyable experience, which is partly why Theo doesn't want to do it.
For Theo to do it for anyone shows you how much Valia means to her.
Did I push you too far?
Everyone makes their own choices, including me.
Thank you, Theo.
Now, more than ever, we need to defend our values with ferocity and pride.
Desmond being elevated to being a Bashar is like he's being designated as an official advisor to the Emperor in a public capacity.
Going after Michaela's safe haven was an obvious thing to do.
Let Desmond Hart come. I'm preparing quite a worthy greeting.
When you're shooting an action sequence and it involves, we're gonna trash the set, it's a bit of an exciting day because you're not gonna have endless opportunities to get it right.
Action!
Every fight in the show needs to be meaningful to the scene.
You give me something I can use. I shall spare your life.
The idea here was they needed to get out. It's like a linear scene. It's propelled forward, 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 forward.
The mayhem is like long cuts. It makes it feel more visceral and chaotic. And the way the location is built, sort of like grates upon grates. An explosion set off in the basement of it, reaching throughout the entire facility, was a fun idea to pursue.
I've seen a knife like that before. Sister?
Finding out Michaela is a sister is such a whirlwind for Kieran. He has the chance there and then to kill her. I think a lesser man would have done that.
It's really difficult for Michaela to play both sides. She just happens to have been embedded with these people who are fighting for a fairer world for the Fremen. But she has to believe the Sisterhood are doing right by everyone.
I've just had to destroy everything that I've built. Your investment wasn't wasted.
When we see everything play out in the way that Valia acts, she starts to question what Valia's intentions are.
It's not my performance that I'm doubting, Mother Superior.
It's always been sisterhood above all, but it starts to feel like sisterhood is very much Valia Harkonnen. And it's her above all.
In the penultimate episode, we needed somebody to come into the show and take a front and center role.
Francesca.
It's been a long time, Abiko.
Taboo is a Bollywood legend. The fact that she was willing to do it was great joy for all of us.
Valia's always got her eye on the bigger picture. The Emperor, he's one of the pieces on the board that she has to control, and she needs Francesca's help to do that. Guide Carino back to us.
Francesca had a very specific task to gain the confidence and the love of the emperor through imprinting, where sisters can exert a kind of molecular influence over another person through intimacy.
Give our son his opportunity, Avigo, and he'll become a man as capable and formidable as you are now.
Constantine's basically a dissolute son in the Emperor's eyes. He's not behaving as an Emperor's son should.
There will be opportunities. When they come, reach for them with confidence.
Constantine steps up. He takes the advice from his mother.
It reminded me of my purpose.
If you look at it from the outside, he's doing exactly what the sisterhood asked him to do. He is definitely manipulated for now.
I have chosen you, my son, to command my fleet. When Francesca asks him to take care of their son, he acquiesces because he's fallen back in love with her all over again. He regrets the fact that they're no longer together. That's never going to be a good thing.
Natalia is absolutely horrified when Francesca arrives. It's deeply wounding. The sisterhood coming between her relationship, not just with her husband, but also with her daughter, spurs her on to find a way out.
My husband's trust, my daughter's love, my power, the sisterhood wrested it all away from me. What did they do to you?
Every step or promotion he gets closer to finding his mother. He'll use anybody just to get what he wants.
Natalia decides to possibly manipulate that.
Let us rid the Imperium of these witches forever.
Your Majesty, I have news about your daughter.
What about my daughter?
I think when Natalia locks up Nez, it's tough love. And she really thinks that she's doing something that's about the greater good and also her daughter's future.
I don't believe that Natalia is planning on killing her daughter. But I think it's very questionable that Natalia and Inez can ever have an untainted relationship after this. That is also the reason why Valia acts immediately.
She knows that the only way that we can defeat Desmond Hart is to have the full weight of the Imperium behind us with Inez on the throne. And that means that Carino is surplus to requirements.
What do you think you're doing?
In the finale, we wanted to explore the final unraveling of Carino as an emperor and as a man, to one by one kind of remove the things that were propping him up until he had nothing left.
Every decision you've ever made, we made it for you. We sent you Francesca to keep your attention.
He's just a worm, the lowest of the low. So it completely destroys his whole perception of who he is.
Unwilling to accept that, unwilling to kind of live with that fate, he exhibits the ultimate free will.
It's a strange thing when you finally realize you've never known one true moment of freedom. But I can control this.
Natalia feels from the end of episode 5 on that Francesca has displaced her. And she sees a moment to reclaim her central power to the Imperium, and she is ruthless about it.
She's been betrayed. So for her, the reasoning is, why should I not betray?
We need to leave.
Not without him. I'm not asking.
Nez is essentially siding with the rebel. This completely pivots their relationship. They are together. They have each other's back.
Everyone had to be really precise, really on point. So, because they prepared so well for that scene before, and it's one of the last scenes we shot with them, so they had already like 3 or 4 months training, proper training behind them. So everyone from the performer side house was really skilled.
Dune is such a violent world. Whenever we would get to an action sequence, it was so much fun to watch the production come together and see Emily Watson voicing people.
Stay where you are!
And Travis on the move.
You say you've seen my end. Show me.
We knew that this machine virus was feeding off people's fear, so it only made sense to us that she would have to revisit her greatest fear.
Her original fear is, yes, she has saved her brother, Griffin, But is she also responsible for his death?
You did this. You killed me. You killed us all.
Tula arrives on the scene with the knowledge that fear is what this machine virus is feeding off of.
The harder you fight, the faster you burn.
Tula has learned with the experiment with Nazir that fighting the virus makes it worse. She guides her to not fight.
I see the worm. It's his fear. Let it go.
She's left with only Desmond's fear, where he was taken against his will.
I saw it. I couldn't make out a face, but they're using a thinking machine.
They are for sure up against another player, and she sets off to find out who that is. The moment between Tula and Desmond is just so incredibly profound.
This was one of the rare moments where you just let things evolve. With Travis, you have an actor that is sometimes unexpected and unpredictable.
Travis acted that scene beautifully, and he hit that note between I love you and I want to punch you. It was brilliant to be forced to question my assumptions about how pleased he'd be to see me.
Arrest her. He arrested his mother, I think, just to keep her, and make sure she can't get away this time. Desmond doesn't understand how a mother could abandon her own kid.
One thing that I do think makes Tula have a conscience is that you realise that she felt she couldn't bring this child into this dreadful family.
You deserve the chance to find your own path, not Valia's or mine.
I'm so excited by where the series ends. There will undoubtedly be tremendous fallout from the fact that Dorothea has finally succeeded in doing what she set out to do, which is destroy Anarur.
I will return us to our righteous path!
Arrakis is very much exerting its pull from a distance. And so the notion that Valia would touch down on the planet and that we would see those sands is a thrilling place to conclude the season.
The path to our enemy begins here.